Hi everyone, my name is Cecily Dallow and today I'm going to discuss the process of natural selection in modern humans. Charles Darwin first observed the process of natural selection on the Galapagos Islands among the birds that lived there. Natural selection is defined as the process of a species changing over time based on which characteristics are more beneficial to its survival. In Darwin's observations, he found that the birds on the island had developed beaks that were different sizes than those of the birds on the mainland. These different beaks were better for obtaining the food that grew on the island, but that did not grow on the mainland. Those birds with beaks more suitable for obtaining food inevitably were much more successful in surviving and reproducing over time. The less suited birds slowly began to die off, while the birds more suited for the environment thrived. Natural selection is a process that has affected and shaped every species on this planet, even humans. In the thousands of years that humans have been on Earth, we've been evolving and developing traits that are beneficial to our survival. This means that traits that were beneficial flourished and were passed on to generations and generations, while traits that were not as beneficial consequently died out. Today's society is a little bit different. This process is no longer survival of the fittest. We are not competing for food and we are not competing for survival. It is extremely rare for a person to die because of a characteristic that they are born with. This does not mean that it does not happen, but because of the technological advances in our world, people are generally more able to cope with restrictions or ailments that they may have been born with. None of this means that natural selection has stopped happening. The process has simply changed. We are still passing on and developing new genes and characteristics, but the consequences of which characteristics are passed on are much less life-threatening. Because globalization has increased so much, people from every area of the world are able to meet or even live in the same environment. As a result of this, we've begun to see a change in the skin color and the shades of skin color among humans worldwide. It is becoming more and more common for people to marry outside of their race or culture, and in turn, we see this affecting how future generations of humans will look. Not one specific race or culture is more beneficial or suitable when it comes to natural selection. Humans are also evolving based on the food we eat. As we became more civilized as a species, we learned how to cook and tame animals and use them for sustenance. Over time, this consequently changed our genetic makeup. For example, the appendix is an organ that used to be for processing uncooked meat back in a time when humans regularly ate red, uncooked meat. Upon discovering that we could cook our meat and that this would make it tastier and safer to consume, humans began to lose the use of the appendix as a necessary organ. The process of natural selection has changed in various ways over time. Apart from these changes in globalization and genetic makeup, humans have also had an impact on their own evolution. A great example of how humans have had an impact on their own evolution has to do with how humans have adapted to digest dairy. Humans produce a lactase enzyme as infants to be able to digest milk. We used to only produce this lactase enzyme as infants and later suppress it as we grew older. In an NPR article titled, "Modern Humans Still Evolving and Faster Than Ever," this article discusses this phenomenon and goes on to mention that when humans began domesticating animals, it eventually became actually advantageous to be one of the few humans who could produce this lactase enzyme into their adulthood. As a result, those humans were more successful in survival and reproduction, and over many generations, these humans that could produce this lactase enzyme became the dominant demographic in the human population. Along with this change in genetic makeup of humans, regarding the continuous production of lactase enzymes aiding in our capability to digest dairy, the environment has also had an impact on human evolution over time. A more environment-specific example of this change in natural selection takes place in Tibet. Tibet's high elevation and thin air can easily cause oxygen deprivation in some humans. The local population of women in Tibet can be divided into two distinct groups, both with differing concentrations of blood oxygen levels. An online article discusses the fact that the population of women with higher blood concentration levels actually gave birth to infants with higher infancy survival rates compared with those women who did not have as high of a blood oxygen concentration level. This difference in survival rates based on the concentration of oxygen in the mother's blood means that the population of Tibet is slowly evolving towards having a greater proportion of people with higher concentrations of oxygen in their blood, because that is clearly what is necessary for survival. Now, if you think of the traditional definition of natural selection, where the smartest, strongest, and fastest survive to go on and create the future generations, and then you take note of the idea that it's not just the smartest, strongest, and fastest reproducing anymore, then it is plausible to think that the human race may be declining and that maybe we are becoming an increasingly less intelligent and healthy society. Studies have shown that people of lower intelligence tend to have more children throughout their lifetime, leading us to believe that we may become a predominantly less intelligent society over time. What all of this means is that even evolution itself is prone to change. The process of natural selection has changed dramatically since our origin as a species, and it is more than likely to continue to do so throughout the rest of our existence. If there is one thing that natural selection can teach us, it's that the only thing that's constant in life is change.